G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who will bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and today I am joined by a fan favourite of the podcast, Geordie DeSena. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me back on as well.
No problems. Truth be told, I'm a little bit dusty. I went out with some fellow soccer dads last night to watch some Premier League and yeah, I'm a little bit tired today, but we'll
no,
be
that's
right.
fair. Hopefully the boys got the win on the EPL, and I was getting messages from you last night. So
it was for those who follow the EPL, it was Everton's last game at Goodison Park, which I was lucky enough to visit once in my life. So I don't know, and then there's a few other EPL. Actually, I was the only Aussie dad in there. I think everyone else was English, so we just watched and I got invited out to watch soccer with them. So good fun, but it takes its toll on a Monday morning, that's for sure. But anyway, we'll get stuck into it. How's your weekend going? You were right up there in the classic ranks. We won't try to talk about classic too much, sorry listeners, but you were right up there in the classic ranks. How's that all going?
Yeah, not too bad. I slid a bit this week. I'm down to 600.
Oh, what is going on?
It's not good. But it's so tight there. So one score and you pretty much slide a couple hundred. So hopefully bounce back. But pretty focused. I really want that hat. That's what I really want. But we'll see how we go.
Well, what about your keeper league? The more important stuff, your keeper league teams. How are they going? You win. You're top of the ladder. You bottom. What's
I'm actually second bottom in my keeper.
So you're rebuilding. Then?
I'm rebuilding. Yeah.
So that's why
I got Langford and these types this year. So, but I got a lot of injuries as well. Like Errol Goulden's probably my best player, and he's been injured. So. I think I'm sort of focusing.
Well, it makes sense as
to
why your attention's been brought away from the keeper league space. We can excuse that. If you're in the middle of a rebuild, it can be a long road back. But anyways, interesting round of footy. Anything stand out to you or any highlights for your teams or anything like that?
Oh, what about, well, I guess we'll get to Port Adelaide. But,
God, no. I don't want to talk about Port.
I don't know. We'll get to that. There's a player in Port that I'm pretty hot on at the moment, so I think we'll touch on that.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to the thing. We might as well start the round review now. Get this done so I can go to bed after this. So let's get stuck into the Gold Coast versus Hawthorn game. Gold Coast, they winning the flag or what?
They're looking pretty good, hey. I think they're going to make finals, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I do like the ladder. Does that annoy you where they got 9 games and because everyone else has played 10 and they've played 9?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because they missed out because of the cyclone.
And the same with Essendon. They're the only 2. So they're 3rd or 4th on the ladder, but they've actually got a game. They got a game up their sleeve. Yeah,
so they're more likely to be even better than they're doing right now.
If they could be top if they won another game. So
is the extra game they have against Essendon too?
Yes.
So they'll win that. So it's basically added on there. So they're going to be scary good and they're actually going to make finals, which is going to be pretty fun come September. But we'll get stuck into a few players. First one I want to talk about is Bailey Humphrey. He scored 80 points on the weekend. I want to know, is he too good for the podcast now?
I was thinking about this. I don't know. It's hard for me to say yes because I think 5 weeks ago he dropped to 30.
Yeah, he does that.
So it's hard to know. I think the good thing is the last 3 weeks he has had a lot more mid-time. So he's actually had on the weekend he had 74%. So he's had over 40% the last 3 weeks. And what I've noticed is, if he's got that role, he obviously can find the ball and he can tackle and get a goal. And we've seen that last 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I've got written here. He's not like an accumulator, but he'll get enough tackles or kick a goal to get him over the 80. At that 80 mark quite often. I think he has done 3 80 pluses in a row or 80 minimum in a row now. So that does auto-qualify him for too good for the podcast. And I think if you look at the ownership numbers, I dare say he'd be right up there as well. So
he's a young player and he's a good prospect. So.
And he's a forward.
And he's a forward.
Fantasy. So do you reckon he's playing enough forward to keep it for next year?
I think so because he has had an uptick, but across the season, I think he's still had a pretty good split of mid-forward.
Just having a look here at the actual numbers. What do we got? Currently averaging 36%. The last few weeks, though, he's had 74% on the weekend, so he's starting to skyrocket there.
So he went ahead of Took on the weekend as the third banana. So that's interesting. And I think he's probably the one actually affecting someone like Sam Flanders, who's just gone backwards.
Yeah,
because I don't think he's getting the mid-time.
He's getting way more midfield than Flanders, that's for sure, and he's stuck forward in that gross role. Feel sorry for Flanders owners out there, but it is what it is. Hopefully they just trade him and he becomes a good midfielder somewhere else, or at least a halfback flanker. What about Jack Ginnivan? He scored 94 points. Do you think he's recaptured his 2024 form?
I think so. So ever since he's gotten dropped, which is 4 weeks ago, he's averaged 91.
Yeah, geez. All right.
So that's obviously worked. He's gone 200s. He's done a 60, I think, and then a 90.
I think your brother was telling me as well he was suffering with an ankle injury or something during the preseason lot as well. So maybe it just took a few weeks to get going. Obviously, he wasn't playing that well given he got dropped. But yeah, it looks like he's really back. Like if I owned him, I'd be pretty happy with him right now.
And he rolls like he's that forward that rolls up a lot, so he's going to get like touches.
And that's the thing. He wasn't doing that earlier on in the season. He was much more stay at home, and you'd see Nick Watson up the ground a lot more, and it's kind of reversed. And I think that's what gives me confidence that he's going to, he'll have like, lean weeks where he won't score huge, but he'll have weeks where he kicks 3 or 4 and he'll have, 100 plus scores as well. So, yeah, no, I'm like Jack Ginnifan as well. Harry Morrison just going to give a tip of the cap there, 85 points, but I don't like his role that he plays at Hawthorn. But we'll move on to the Sydney versus Carlton. Actually, yeah, we'll tip of the cap to Sam Wicks as well, who scored 88 points. He seems to have one good score because he's a defender. Everyone goes, I'm going to pick him up because he was huge on the waiver today, and then he would just be shit for a few weeks after that and probably get dropped eventually and then repeat the process.
I wonder if it's to do with like if Sydney win.
Maybe, yeah. It doesn't happen very often this season, so maybe that could be it. Another guy that was picked up heaps off the waivers this week was Angus Sheldrick. He had 88 points. He was his best game of the season. I think the kind of wet conditions suited to play like him. He was a good tackler and in and under, given that he's kind of a little fella as well. What do you think though? Like people would be excited, but I heard there's a certain player that dominated the VFL on the weekend that might be coming back.
Yeah, I'm a big, we're talking about Callum Mills, I'm a big Mills fan. He got 80.5.
Yeah.
I think with Sheldrick, he had 60% TOG.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty standard for Sheldrick.
Yeah, and I just feel like, new coach coming in, usually go these sort of guys, they either get a better opportunity, but he seemed to have the exact same role and opportunity as he is now with Cox. Obviously Cox has been there.
Yeah.
But I think Mills is pretty much a like for like replacement straight for Sheldrick.
A better replacement.
So that definitely is a worry, and I think they're definitely going to play Mills inside. I just think that's what they need, Sydney. And
that's where he was training all preseason.
Exactly.
It looked like it was going to happen. He played that in the VFL. Yeah, it's going to happen. So
I think he might hold because there's a few suspensions with Sydney at the moment. McInerney got a 1 week, so I think he'll be in the side, but I think Mills will affect him. I wonder if Mills comes back this week though, or could they sub Mills off and Sheldrick's a sub and that he just replaces him in the third quarter or something?
Regardless, like if you're excited about Angus Sheldrick, pretty much don't get too excited because something's going to probably happen in the next few weeks. It's going to restrict his time on ground or maybe even push him back to the sub-vest or worse. So, yeah, don't get too excited, but it was a good score from him. Just wanted to highlight Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, this 88 and 84 between them. They're just starting to click and become reliable forwards, so I'd be pretty happy if I was owning those guys. It's just both had injury issues and mental health issues and whatever, and they're just kind of starting to ease into it now. So it's going pretty well. Got a bit of a left field question for you, I guess. So Mark Pitnet had the 87 points, so that's a pretty decent score. And he's only a handcuff at the moment because Tom de Koning is out. But like, isn't the rumour that Tom de Koning is going to St Kilda?
Yeah, that big contract.
Yeah, so if that happens, does Mark Pitnet become the number 1 ruck next
Surely.
season?
Like, I don't know if they've got anyone else, do they, coming through as a kid? I'm not
I
sure.
don't think so. So they have to pull a trade, or does he go into it?
Could he be a 90 guy?
Well, he scored 87 on the weekend against Brodie Grundy, so he could be. My thing is, though, like, how many people are actually struggling for a ruck out there? Because, like, we're a 12-team league, and it feels like everyone's got one, like one that's half decent. So, like, I feel a few seasons ago, they were much more valuable, good rucks.
Yeah.
But I reckon at the moment, everyone's just kind of playing one ruck and they all go about the 80 mark anyway. So
that's fair.
It's okay as well. So I'm not sure how excited you're going to get about it. But yeah.
You're right. There's a lot around there. And we've seen Goldstein come in and stuff like that. Just people off the waivers. Yeah, Flynn come in from nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
now, and those two names you mentioned, they're backup rucks in teams that I've seen. Like, no one's playing them on field either. So there's like enough good ones out there. So maybe it's not something to get excited about. But if you're really desperate, next season he could be like a pretty handy option. Anything catch your eye in this game?
So yeah, I was looking at the fantasy points. Both teams scored the exact same fantasy points.
Like from the night?
On the night.
Yeah,
so 1470, which is like that. I don't think that has ever happened, or it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is not with the game, but I've noticed the last 3 weeks there's been a bit of a low scoring affair across the board. So
well, looking at my league scores, I think the top one was yours truly, was me, but it was like 1650 was the highest. I think, and then yeah, it's kind of, there's no 1700. There's very rarely 1700 scores. Like,
yes.
that sort of stuff.
I don't know whether it's a game style thing. Usually at this time of year, we see more tackles, a bit of rainy weather.
Yeah.
But the scoring has been lower the last 3 weeks, and it's like on average, it's been under 1,500, and we only had that once last year.
Yeah.
And that's happened in the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
So
scoring's obviously down.
yeah, scoring's down. I don't know if it's game style, but then you get guys like Cherry and Marshall going 150s.
Rucks are a different breed though.
Yeah.
They're like, especially those games, it was like stoppage, tackle, stoppage, handball, stoppage, tackle.
So it's like if you got one of those captain, and then you got these other guys going floor scores.
Yeah.
It's a massive, at the moment, these last weeks have been a massive gap.
Yeah. Well, I did notice that on the weekend because I had a 155-point captain and didn't score over 1,700 in a 12-team league.
See, that's crazy.
Yeah. And that was largely due to 2 players getting 20s and 30s and stuff like that. But like, there's always like a few down and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just not as big. So yeah, it is a strange year, especially because like I'm sitting top as well and haven't put up a 1,700 plus score in a 12-team league. Yeah, so it does feel they're lower than normal, that's for sure. On to the Collingwood versus Adelaide. Watched this at a pub with the mates. Always devastating to see the Crows go down. I get really sad about that. Let's talk about Braden Maynard. I think it's just a tip of the cap for now. So he was on Fogarty for a bit, and kind of Fogarty went big as well, and he kind of like, because they don't really have like huge key defenders. Moore was out, so it was kind of like just run off them, like kind of be accountable, but then try to attack the other way. And you know, they both, him and his man both scored well, so that's why I'm kind of.
I think he was captain this game as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. So he probably stood up a bit as well, but yeah, without Moore out, and then like Howe was like their next best key defender, and like really. Like through the most of his career, he's been either a forward or a halfback flanker. You know, in the last 3-4 years, he's been a kind of a key defender at Collingwood. So, yeah, a bit weird. So I think he kind of just had to step in, and yeah, he just kind of played off his man a bit. Wouldn't expect that every week. What are your thoughts on Jake Soligo this season? Everyone thought he was going to be.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I think Crows' mid depth has increased.
Yeah, that's hurt him.
Hurt him probably. I still think like there's wingers out there that can average over 90 in good teams. I just think. You know, I'd probably see him doing that eventually. I probably said it on a pod a few weeks ago, but like he just reminds me of like a McCluggage type that maybe averages 95 to 100 as like his top range with that depth, because he's going to play a bit of inside, a bit of outside.
It's just like
it's been pretty bad actually the last few weeks.
Pre-season he's like was the next big thing, you know, like he was looking so like, massive. And it's like he's getting quite a few CBAs and stuff as well, especially since Crouch has been out. He's been back in there a lot more. But
he started the year so hot as well.
Yeah, he's just not scoring. Yeah, but you're right. There is at depths. Bringing Rankin into the midfield, bringing Peatling in there, like it has. It's going to be harder, that's for sure. Speaking of Peatling, actually, Sligo, 87 points, good score from him. Peatling tagged Dacos for the game, had 77 points, so it wasn't terrible, but like. Because he's a forward as well, it's all right. But like maybe watch for that for the future, like if he's a tagger, like for the opposition kind of teams.
Yeah, it seems to be that defensive sort of mid.
Yeah, if they're using him more in that role.
He only had, so like last week he put up a 112, I think it was, or 120. But he had 12 tackles.
Yeah, the back of the tackles, yeah.
And this weekend he had, I think, the 4 tackles.
There's a difference.
So he had the exact same, I think it was 20 possessions still. Yeah. But he obviously didn't get the tackles there. So, yeah.
No, well, that's the thing. But like, so this is a forward you're going to take there every other week, and he's probably got another few good weeks of good scoring until Crouch comes back. So, no, take that one. Onto the Port Adelaide versus Geelong game. What a shit show that was. First one that caught my eye, and everyone's kind of talking about it because he was high up on the waiver wire as well, was Dante Vicentini. What do you think? Because he scored 91 points, but like, and if it like, this is kind of my point with Pitnet. Like, if you've got a number one ruck, they're going to score okay. Like, they're fine. But do you consistently being the number one ruck? I just feel like Sweet's going to come back at some stage.
I agree. I think Sweet is our number one, and yeah, I even against the showdown last week, I was like, I know Sweet
Rob got best on ground. Rob should have been best on ground.
And I don't think we should have dropped Sweet.
No, neither.
As a big body in a showdown, like I would have rathered him. I know English took him to the sword, I think, the week before.
But it wasn't in ruck work. It was around the ground.
Yeah.
Like, that was the annoying part.
So I don't know what's going on. Are they trying to make a statement or something?
Yeah. I feel like that's what it was. I feel like that was always. They tried to make a statement, and then Vicentini performed too well to drop. But even though his direct opponent played really well as well, where I feel like Sweet would have nullified him a bit more. I mentioned this in the my article, streamer article. Port Adelaide over the last 5 weeks, easiest team for rucks to score against because you had English go big, you had Rob go big, and then I think Blitzars went big in this game as well. Yeah, so and I did have that in the streamer, so pat on the back to that for me.
Yeah.
So if you're playing against Port Adelaide, who we got Freo? So Luke Jackson this week.
Luke Jackson
should go massive.
I'm looking at bringing him in.
Yeah, maybe in Supercoach. Yeah, might be a good one to do. Miles Bergman.
This is the guy.
This was so annoying. He was on 70 at three-quarter time, finished with 79 points.
I was so excited about this. I thought, last week in midfield role, he looked great, and I just thought, why will we move him out the midfield? Like, why not experiment with this? And also, it gets his trade value up if we want to trade him.
People coming at me on TikTok saying, he tagged Dawson, it's not going to happen again, it's never going to happen. I'm like, shut up, it is. Like, it will happen again. Like,
we went straight, so you went to Baz.
Yeah, exactly. So he's playing that tagging role. I guess the big thing is now we've lost a few more defenders. Who we lose?
Jones, Sin.
Yeah, Sin as well.
And there's another, or Horner, but he's mid.
Now, is this going to continue in the midfield? Because I saw Logan Evans turned up in the twos.
Yep.
The Rat turned up in the twos.
Yep.
I'm kind of hoping from a fantasy perspective, we're going to get belted if we bring those two guys in.
Yep.
But I'm hoping from a fantasy perspective that they bring those two in so they can keep playing Bergman in the middle.
I really hope so. I think and Horner out.
Correct,
does that mean there's a spot there you can do Hornet's sort of role? I think. I wonder if Zerk Thatcher just comes in for Jones and plays a bit more lockdown.
That's logical.
And then maybe Sin, if he doesn't get up, maybe Rat comes in. And maybe we can just play Boak as a winger or something.
Yeah, or he can play the forward part of Horn Francis as well.
Yeah,
so,
and he was looking good. I think he's I think he's like a fourth most important player behind the big three.
Well, I think also as well, like, I know it was a worry they only scored 9 points in the last quarter, but Port themselves just didn't have hands on the footy at all. They sucked. Mark O'Connor, I'm only tipping the cap to him, but like another one, people see like Mark O'Connor, 110 points, 20% owned or whatever in keeper, and they just jump on him on the waiver wire because you kind of got to jump on someone because someone's going to grab him in your league, but it's just someone I wouldn't be giving up points for. Like, Port were just terrible going forward and just mopped. He took 11 marks in defence.
Yeah.
Like,
did he do a job on Butters or something? Or I don't know.
I remember
Butters had a low one.
I remembered. I had a lot of business before this game, but I remember him being in defence just taking marks.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether Butters was going forward or anything.
Mullen went to Butters.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, so he was more in defence and just taking grabs. Then Mark Blitzars, that was the other one as well. So I said, rucks against Port, just stream them because they're going well. But there was a lot of decent scorers for Cats that were somewhat relevant, but I think it's just more Port were so bad in the weekend. So I don't think we'll read too much into it. GWS versus Fremantle. Do you reckon Kieran Briggs is starting to find form? I know 85 isn't huge, but
yeah, I think so. The thing is his TOG was still 67%.
Yeah.
So I'm just worried. I'm just like, why is it so low? Is there management there? Is he sore?
Did you watch any of this game?
Nah, I didn't. I wasn't able to watch it.
It's the same as the Port game, like exact same time.
Same time,
it's weird.
Yeah.
It's just like they tried to hide this game.
It's first. I think that might have been the first time there was two at that Twilight slot, which and then they had their Dogs game, which
it was a
standalone blowout. So I don't know. I don't know whether it's better points, but his TOG's low still. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, he was carrying, I think, a bit of an injury for a while, and they've been playing Riccardi as the backup ruck, and he's been going pretty well. So maybe they're letting that roll a bit more. I don't know. Shea Bolton had under 19 points, and just had a day out and kicked 3 goals. He's not technically too good for the podcast because he averaged under 80 last season, and he hasn't done the 380s in a row yet because he's been so up and down with his scoring this season. So
since Young's gone out with that hamstring, I think it was. Bolton's been, he's upticked a bit more CBAs as well. So
who's the other midfielder? I forgot his name now. 44, I think his name.
Erasmus or Johnson.
Yeah, he was having a bit of an uptick before this week as well, but now it seemed like he was down as well. So maybe they are going to rotate him into the midfield a bit more because it kind of makes sense as to why he would have scored so well this week. Luke Ryan, I've been looking at in a couple of my leagues. I feel like he's someone I might be able to get a bit cheaper if you're a contending team. Would you be someone you're targeting?
I think so. I think. Like, obviously, the big thing about Free was this game style. Like, last year, they've chip around the back line. And they seem to not been doing that as much. You see him, Clark and Ryan aren't doing that. But last week against Pies, he did do a 120. So, I think if you can get him cheap is a good thing. I think, at the back end of the year, I don't know, does the game style change?
Does
Freo in that
Longmuir
mid,
get sacked and they do something different?
You know, do they say something different? Freo in that weird spot are like, you know, I mean, they won this week, but there was talk a couple of weeks ago, like you said, about Longmuir. So you could...
I think Longmuir's 100% gone at the end of this year.
So you couldn't, right, they could just chip it around at the end of the year and you could... Who knows? I think it's a fair shout if you're a contender.
I think that's the thing with my league is it feels like everyone has 5 good defenders, like 4 or 5 reasonable defenders. Like everyone's got 5 that are going 70 plus at the moment. Then, and I think he's only averaging around this high
78,
70s,
I think,
70s mark, high 70s mark anyway. And then like everyone struggles for that M7. Like everyone's got a dud at M7 really. And then you've either got a good forward line or a terrible forward line. And everyone's got a pretty reasonable ruck, I reckon, in most of my leagues as well. It's just like forward lines and the deeper mids are the hardest ones to actually come across.
What if you had a defender you could flick into that M7 and then play right, like, you know, defender mid?
Yeah,
if there was one.
Yeah, it's more, no one's giving anything up, like in those hard to fill spots as well. So it's very hard to even come across players to trade in because people need them in their teams, like unless someone's tanking. But most leagues have tanking rules. You can't fill donuts and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty tricky at the moment to actually get any trades done. Moving on to the Western Bulldogs versus Essendon game. Riley West, I want to bring to the table because he's on the Too Good for the Podcast bubble with 2 80-plus scores in a row. Scored 109 in this game. And I owned him last year, and I reckon I might have fielded him 3 times throughout the season. But, like, sometimes he does put up decent scores. And, like, this year he's had 7 out of his 10 scores that he's played so far have been over 60. So that's pretty good for an F5 streamer. Like
that is good.
Is he someone you'd pick up off the waivers just for a bit of bench cover?
I think so. I think there's some interest there. And I love a forward that's not going to pop like a 30.
Yeah.
Like if it's like one of those guys like, okay, I'm going to give him a crack. Worst case, I get a 60.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to ruin your game,
That's
right?
pretty much what he's doing at the moment. And he gets like a bit of crack at the midfield time as well. Like it's a few centimetres. Like round 5, he had 19% of the CBA. So like...
And Dogs are looking pretty good.
Yeah. So he's just someone I think is worth picking up and chucking on your bench if you can, or maybe a cheeky trade if no one's got value in. Maybe wait a week or so so he's not on the back of that 109 point value. But if you need bench cover or an F5, he could be the guy that just you get cheaply and chuck there. Peter Wright, 90 points. He's pretty close as well. Just that forward role is doing pretty well for him.
Back up to Goldie, I think he's helpful for points.
Yeah, and this guy's still way too good for the podcast, but any concern with Jai Caldwell only scoring 57 points?
I'm not really we know he's a gun. I think it's just the injury coming back, easing in. And like that midfield mix, I don't know, is it working? Like Shields a sub, Setterfield's in there. Parrish is meant to come back, but I don't really know about Parrish anymore. He just is always injured in VFL. Merritt was quiet as well.
Yeah, Caldwell was low time on ground too. I think 65% I got written here. So yeah, I'm not too concerned either.
Caldwell was flying at the start of the year.
Yeah, I know. He was my highest averaging player up until like round 9 because he had that huge round 1 type thing. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not too concerned. I think he just needs to get that time on ground back up, which I reckon we might see this week. Like I reckon we'll see a good score from him this week. They play Friday night, don't they?
They play Richmond, Friday night.
Oh, there we go. So that could be a good score there. Moving on to the Richmond versus North Melbourne. Actually a fun game to watch.
Contested.
Yeah, exactly. That's especially if you've got Tristan Cherry captain. It's a very fun game to watch. We'll start with a few Richmond players though. Sam Banks had the 87 points. See, I've barely watched Richmond, and I was watching because they're so boring. I don't have any of their team.
It's hard to get the names of the players as well.
Yeah, I don't know who they are. But also, I don't have any of their players on my team. So, watching, if I have 3 North players, so it's kind of fun that. But if I don't have any players, in the game, I'm not watching them. But, Sam Banks, I thought he was more up as a winger earlier on in the season. But, last 2 weeks, I've looked at his heat maps and watched him pretty closely in this game. He's more on the halfback, a lot more, which is what we wanted in the preseason because we thought he'd be a better scorer there. So I don't know. I reckon he's on the rise. And I just traded him in a league for basically peanut. Well, he was steak knives and a big deal for mine. But he's actually popped out some pretty good scores since then. So
I wonder, Jaden Short's been out last 2 weeks. I don't know whether that's helped him or not. But I think I was checking, like you said, that heat map. I think it was over. Well, I've been looking at the splits and it was over 50% defence, I think.
Yeah.
So
he's way more in defence now and he scores way better from that spot as well. And I think going forward with Vlosten getting towards the end of his career and stuff like that, it could be a pretty good prospect going forward. If you go back and watch my top 5 draftees from last year, I think it was, or the year before, Kane McAuliffe was in my top 5. And he's been dominating the twos. The VFL has been absolutely carving. 86 points in this game. But the thing is, like Richmond, I feel like they just have a lot of similar players to him, like that contested inside.
They got
guy.
like Ross and Dow.
Yeah.
And
Oh no, but also like
guys.
Taranto and Hopper are
yeah.
quite similar in the way he plays as well. Like he's not like the kind of flashy outside flair kind of guy, but I think in a couple years he could be the handy like inside midfielder. Like he could replace Hopper one day. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of role I see him in, and maybe he won't be a huge scorer given that he's very inside, but he could be an 80 kind of average guy one day I think as well. So yeah, big fan of Kane McAuliffe, and it was good to see him just get a good run in the midfield and play pretty well. A lot of questions about Colby and McKercher this week.
Yeah, I'll put this one in. I think he's been well, it's hard. He's a second-year player, but he's been a bit down this year. He's been obviously a great prospect. And a lot of people are saying, is he back, And I think if I saw him marking a lot more, potentially, but what I noticed was I think he was on the wing, but basically... Well, I was at a gig actually, and I had the screen in front of me, and I think I just
watching while you're playing.
I was watching while I was playing, and I saw him in the centre bounce. I was almost going to text him and be like, "Is McKercher playing inside?"
Yeah.
But he only had 7% CBA. So what he was doing is he's rolling in, and he had 10 tackles. So that's 40 points.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's back. I think
the role looked no different.
Yes.
It looked half forward wing.
Yes.
And which that concerns me the most.
Yep. And, he's probably helped his confidence, but he had 10 tackles.
Yeah.
And he's only done that. He's never done that.
Okay. So that's probably
He's
not
only
gonna
ever
happen.
had 5 as his highest.
Yeah.
ever.
I feel like a bit of Richmond factor. You go to another level, try and get the win, all that sort of stuff as well. So, if he does it again next week, we'll have the conversation and, think about it then. But I would be just kind of not getting my hopes up just yet. George Wardlaw, 83 points, had 10 tackles as well. So there's so many contests.
So many
in this game.
tackles, yeah.
Like neither team
Sheasel
could-
had 10.
Yeah.
And Cherry had, about 15 or something?
Yeah. Neither team could move the ball. They
Yeah.
just kept getting balled up and tackled and that, whatever. But I don't know. Do you think Wardlaw has the fantasy ceiling? We haven't really seen it yet. This was always my concern with him.
Yeah, I think isn't it like he's sort of been compared to Oliver as a guy, and I just wonder is it that North have to improve and become a top 8 sort of side for him to get that reward?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, because probably Oliver only started being a real fantasy gun once Melbourne started kind of being a contender.
Because I feel like if they're going to be more of a fantasy friendly side, he's probably going to be the beneficiary of that, and he's going to improve. But their midfield has a bit of depth now with Sheasel, and LDU signed a big deal as well. So I think he's a solid guy. I just don't know whether he's going to be 100 plus. Maybe he's 90. Maybe he's like a Rao. He's a 90 guy.
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
Yeah.
I reckon that's where he's going to be. Yeah, so so many people were getting excited, namely Stevie Fizz was so, and I think I said on one of these pods, I'm just not convinced just because of those reasons. Really.
Yeah.
I still think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah.
He's just not going to be go super early on in a keeper league and expect a future captain option type guy. That's all. Moving on to the Brisbane versus Melbourne game. Zach Bailey, he's put up 300 plus scores this season, had 107 on the weekend. He's playing up on the wing a lot more, and it's just he has ups and downs, but he's going to have games where he pops and goes all right. He kind of rolls into LA to play as another midfielder as well, so he's listed as a forward. You just got to hope he holds forward status.
Yeah.
I
think good matchup. Melbourne is usually pretty good to score against, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely. Well, this is why Ryan Lester's another one. He's got back-to-back 80s, so it's I didn't even mention him last week because it was a one-off score type thing. But I found this out on the weekend though. Brisbane are the number 1 uncontested marking team, and you notice the way they come out of defence. Every time there's a point, it's lots of short kicks, pinpoint targets, and they'll go sideways and they'll go into the corridor and just lots of little kicks. And they seem to all kind of get a lot of little +6s that way, especially coming out of defence. So, and then he's also sometimes one of the guys who's in the pocket and they go straight to him coming out as well. So he gets +6s that way. But I don't think it's going to be sustainable. But I think he's just more streamable than he has been in previous seasons. Well, than you'd ever consider him for. So, yeah, not one I'd really condone, but I'm just pointing out he's had back-to-back 80s and there are opportunities for him to score from time to time as well. So many of us have got players on our bench that don't play at all. I've got Liam Reedy sitting there.
Yeah.
People you could have someone like Ryan Lester who are at least going to play, and if you get a few injuries, then
you might need him.
Yeah, you might need him type thing. I didn't see too much of this game. I was starting to hit the town at this point. How was Kitty Coleman's game?
Yeah, I just want to add him in. He looked pretty good. Low time on ground. I think the plan was for him to be at the sub actually.
Yeah, okay.
because I saw a tweet that was like, Big O. So Big O's been getting injections to get him through games.
Yeah,
so
right.
that's why Darcy Fort's been playing.
Performance enhancing, or
I don't, and he was laid out, so obviously didn't get up. And the tweet was like, kiddies now will get a full game.
yeah,
So that was a good sign. I think what I was interested about Kitty was who is that going to affect? Is that going to affect like a Zorko, or how does that go? But I think it affected Jasper Fletcher the most.
go back and look at my TikTok. I called that.
You said that, yeah. Elite. And he was on the wing. I think he's still got 68, Fletcher. But obviously,
The wing's not going to be as nice.
Yeah, it's not going to be as
But
nice.
Berry was out as well. So this is interesting.
True.
So that's the other thing. We haven't really seen how all the moving parts work. Who do you think's in danger the most?
Yeah, well,
Noah Answorth probably is the number one man in danger, I think.
yeah.
And then
And they got Gardner as well, Darcy Gardner. And yeah. I think you're right. I think because Berry was just concussion, I think, so he'll probably be back this week.
was Gardner more forward this week, or
I don't. I feel like I
one
saw
of
him
those big
defense.
guys? I always get those big guys, him and Fort, all mixed up.
Yeah,
Like, they all look the
and they
same
have
to me.
Sam Day as well. And
Payne. They're all
Payne, yeah.
always get mixed up. Jake Melsham as well. He's kind of like Melbourne's number one key forward. Well, in this game anyway. I think Fritsch started on the bench. Probably just the tip of the cap because he kicked 4 goals, but
he played pretty well.
Might pop up. Onto the last game of the round, West Coast versus St Kilda. It finally happened. Brady Hoff put up a ton.
Elites.
Big spread of midfielders used in this game though, so I'm not super confident. And it's like the one game that they've won.
And they've won, yeah.
And they're probably only going to win all year. But he's getting a decent midfield run.
Yeah. Well, see, I picked him up a few weeks ago in a waiver, and I was excited about it.
Yeah.
And he dropped like a 40 for me, and a 50 or something
I think it was
high
like
CBAs.
I think it was like a 42, but he had 30 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So we thought he was going
And
huge.
I've dropped him now, and then so it's just hard to, you probably need a bit more data on him for the year.
What I've noticed with West Coast is only one player tons up each week, and it was his turn this week. So maybe that's the thing, because it's either him, Marich, Flynn. Sometimes Graham gets there, but like very rarely do they have more than 1 ton, and it still happened in the game that they won. So
That's crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of Jack Graham, 97 points. He's too good for the podcast now, actually, because he's forward, gets a lot of tackles. Probably one to target if you're contending, because he will lose forward status probably. He's been spending a bit of time there. I don't know.
Not sure, actually.
Yeah, let me have a look here. What is his CBA numbers? He's averaging 33, so he probably should go okay, but there's been some games where he's had high amounts, but this is only like the thing is with West Coast, like you look at
They're
their
trying
CBA
it out.
numbers, there are so many midfielders running through there. Like, I think if we look at the last game here, Liam Ryan was another one as well. He had huge numbers in this game. So let's have a look here. So we had Flynn Reid with the 2 most used, Elijah Hewitt, Brady Hoff, Liam Ryan, Jack Graham, Tyler Brockman must have been rocking. Oh, no, Tyler Brockman. No, I'm starting to think of the wrong guy. Sandy Brock, I'm thinking of.
He started in there as well, yeah.
Yeah, so Tyler Brockman, usually on a wing, come in. Bailey Williams, the backup ruck, playing forward as well. So
And Tim Kelly was low.
Tim
19.
Kelly didn't. Oh yeah, Tim Kelly got 19 as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
like just such a huge spread of midfielders in there. So it's kind of hard to get a gauge. They're just trying things out, is what I'm trying to say. Because yeah, Flynn 93 points. He's on the too good for the podcast bubble, scoring well with Williams in the side, but he was kind of playing Archer Reed's role.
Yes,
anyway, he was out.
Yep.
Liam Ryan, yeah, another one. Like might be one to think of. Might be a streamable option off the waiver wire just because he's getting lots of midfield time as well. So another one to think about. And another kind of guy to think about if you're contending is Brad Hill. I reckon you can get him pretty cheap. And he's more than capable of an 80 here and there. And listed as a forward, I reckon.
Yeah.
So,
And he rolls, he rolls back as well at times. So,
yeah. What about Mateus Philippou? Didn't get the midfield time we thought, but that's probably expected.
Yeah, he started in there. I think he didn't get any CBAs in the second half. I think they're trying to they're trying to ease him in. He had low time on ground, and Ross came out and said, "Oh, it looks like we threw him to the wolves a bit." So I think he needs just a bit more match fitness, and I think we'll see it by the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, they might have no choice now.
Bit of news of McRae. Yeah.
So McRae, if anyone's missed it, McRae's punctured his lung.
Yes.
They reckon Twitter's saying it's 1 week.
Yeah.
But I reckon that is bullshit.
Yeah.
I reckon we don't see him for at least 3.
Yeah, I think
after
next
the
week
bye.
they go to Alice Springs.
Yeah.
So it's and then it's a bye or something.
Yeah, so they'll wait till after the bye before they play him again. my forward line has taken a hit at the moment, but hopefully the Hoofers can hold on to top spot. But yeah, Philippou, I reckon they might see more of him in the midfield just because of McRae as well. So anyways, that's the round recap. Let's get into the questions so then I can go to bed. Major Van Bam wants to know Hoff on the ball, but only good in a win. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I agree with him as well. Like I said, only one player's scoring 100 each week for West Coast, and it's not going to be Hoff each week. So yeah. At Bootboy, not a question, but ever since you convinced me not to quit, I have not lost, and maybe we'll never lose again. Thanks. This could be the year I get my first pigeon. I'm assuming the pigeon is their trophy or something like that. But
I reckon last time I was on the pod, that was one of the questions. He was like, I'm good, so should I quit? And now I've come back and he's killing it. That's
we can take credit for that one, definitely. At Liam, AFLW Fantasy, how do we project the... I can't read it. How do project out the fantasy scoring of Ned Long? All right, so it must be about Ned Long's fantasy projections
long term,
for the medium to long term. Is he someone worth trading for or investing in? Is he someone that gets mid-clock? Well, you think about they are going to have Sidebottom come out of that midfield. They're going to have Pendles come out of that midfield. So there's two kind of huge upticks of scoring to happen in there.
I've got a question on this because in the pre-season and the off-season, they signed Harry Perryman.
Yeah.
And I would have thought they would have given him a midfield time, big deal. And Ned Long's sort of taking that role is how I sort of see it.
Yeah.
So what is, are they going to, is Perryman going to be the man? I
think Ned Long is the guy. I don't think Ned Long can play anywhere else, and he's good enough to be in their midfield. In terms of his ceiling, though, I just don't know if he's going to be a huge 100-plus guy. That's all. Because he kind of does play quite contested. He's they're in and under kind of guy. So, it could be, best case, he could be a Jack Steele, which would be huge. Just getting heaps of tackles and that sort of stuff as well. But I don't know. I'm yet to see, something I'm confident of being 100-plus each week. That's all.
I reckon if it was me, I reckon I'd trade him while he's got high investment. I don't know. I just feel like he just reminds me he's good at the moment, but we see these sort of guys. I think I'd be trading him.
Who was that guy who played in the 2018 grand final series and he was scoring really well and everyone went high on him in the next draft, and then he pretty much petered out to nothing. Hold on, let me look up 2018 grand final teams, because that's who it reminds me of, in nothing but I feel like he
was it West Coast or Collingwood?
No, for Collingwood. Same deal though. Who was it? Braden Sire. Oh. Do you remember him? Had a huge had a huge month at the end, and everyone drafted him with first round next year and stuff like that. And then we pretty much never heard of him again. I just get that kind of vibe from him.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think he's obviously right now he's scoring and he's good, but I don't know if I'd be trading for him. I don't know. It's just personal view.
I feel like he's going to be a dime a dozen mid. I think Collingwood are going to get pretty shit. Once all their oldies kind of drop off. And also, Dacos is just going to be the main guy, getting all the pill in there. So I think it might be tough for him. But I could be wrong. Zavaram wants to know, is it worth holding Isaac Cumming? I picked him up in my league after he was dropped. Just curious if there's any chance of him receiving that halfback role that was hyped in the preseason. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
He's a winger.
He's a winger, yeah. I think the only way is if there's a major injury or something.
Yeah.
Some injuries.
Yeah, but even so, I don't know. You look at their backline, it seems pretty settled. They're like Miller back there. They're not moving him further up the ground in any way. Hinge is not going back to a wing.
Actually got good depth in the defence.
It's stupid how good that they have recruited. It's almost like Moneyball type acquisitions, not superstars, guys they've plucked out of state leagues and stuff like that, and just developed guys as well. I suppose Michael Laney as well, and having guys like him.
Even Worrell stepped up this year.
Worrell's been huge. So it's annoying how good their defense. They're actually the worst defensive side in the league, aren't they? Because they're all out attack, but. They are, not if they're worse, but they're more attacking than they are a defensive team. You know what I mean? But yeah, the guys that they found were 3 years ago. No one would have heard of these people. They're not high-end draft picks except for maybe Michael Laney, and then they've kind of brought out some decent players from it. Mark Keane, listed from Collingwood. Who would have thought?
Exactly.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. So, and D Silverton. Banks or McAuliffe for the future. So if you had to pick one right now, who would you pick for the future?
I'm going to go Banks because of the defender status.
Yeah.
McAuliffe, as you said, that top drafty, but they do have similar types. They do have, I feel like Layla's going to go in there soon, and Smilly is one of those top guys that they are developing.
Yeah.
So I think I'll go with Banks.
Yeah, I agree. Just because Banks as well, like halfback flankers are the new midfielders, like, and that's kind of the role he's playing. Plus, it's just it's like an extra year or two into his career, and we're just starting to see him flourish a bit more. Whereas like McCall, I've seen one game of him being decent, so I'd probably, if I had to make the call right now, say it's a waiver priority that you got to use, I'd probably use Banks first. Yeah. Anyways, that's it for the show this week. Thanks for coming on and helping us out.
No worries at all.
Any gigs? You've started to quieten down a bit, haven't you? It's getting cold outside. No one's going out.
It's freezing today. Yeah, to quieten down, which is actually really good because I need a little break and more footy and try and get back into my running like you.
Yeah, I also need to get back. I haven't run for 2 weeks. I just keep injuring myself.
How's the body?
Not good. Since the marathon finished, I think I tried to get back into it too early and then hurt my back last week. And physio said I could probably try running again on Sunday, but I just wasn't feeling right. So I didn't go again. So I'm probably going to run tomorrow. So we'll see how we go from there.
Oh, yeah. And also on the marathon, unreal achievement as well. Last couple of weeks ago.
It is good. I got to keep thinking like it's a good achievement to just finish. You know?
Amazing.
Even though I wasn't happy with the time. Anyways, thanks for that. Anyway, let's finish it off. Get around us on @KeeperLeaguePod on all the socials. Make sure you sign up to our YouTube channel, especially trying to grow that one there. Jump on the Discord as well. There's a link in the description below. And if you want to support the podcast, please sign up as a member and help us out there. All those links in the description below. Anyways, thanks for listening for another week, and we will talk to you soon. See ya.